Hello and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. Today I'm at home. So the weather's changed, we can't go out in the garden and we can't go walking yet. So I'm going to share with you an art project that I've got in mind. So if you've ever visited Cornwall, you've probably heard of St Michael's Mount, a mansion built on top of a mound of granite. So here's a brief description from the Ward Lock book about Penzance, about St Michael's Mount. St Michael's Mount is a unique mansion perched on a lofty, isolated mass of rock, separated from Marazion at high water by about 400 yards of sea, but at low water connected with the mainland by a stone causeway. I love St Michael's Mount. We like walking the dogs down there in the winter. It's great. You can park up at Long Rock and you can always see the mount either going or coming back. It's just a magical place to walk our doggies. I've also got a strong family connection with the Penzance area. This is my grandma, my nanny as I used to call her. She used to visit the mount when she was younger. This is in the 1920s. So let's get started with the art project. I'm going to be using a number of things to achieve a particular effect. It's actually going to be a textile project. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to be using this stuff. It's called Bondaweb. And what they've done is taken like a piece of greaseproof paper and spray it with a layer of glue. You can see it kind of shimmering there. So then I will apply the acrylics. Once they're dry, it gets ironed onto a piece of fabric. After that the fun begins, so then we start to embellish it with all sorts of embroidery. I can use satin stitch, French knots and any other stitch I can think of. But most importantly, what I want to be doing is to add some of the sea glass that I picked up when we were down at Marazion. Here's a little sequence of when we gathered the sea glass from, there's two beaches in Marazion, there's one by the mount and then there's one the other side of the town. So we visited both those beaches and you can see what I collected. So my art project today is down here, beautiful setting of Mount Spelt. We've got St Michael's Mount in the background behind me. Fabulous causeway here is what I want to try to recreate in textiles. So this beach is also quite a good source for sea glass, so we might be lucky today and find some sea glass as well, which would be really nice to put into the art piece. Look like the causeway that you could touch, a touch of Cornwall on your wall. Marazion has lots of these tiny windy little streets that take you towards the sea. This one takes you to a beach. The joy of this beach is that it's not as busy as the main beach by the car park. Okay, you've got to walk a little bit more, but it's quite lovely walking down little lanes like this. So we come down here, a little alleyway. We discovered this beach a few years ago, didn't we, Andrew?
Lovely little beach, isn't it?
It is, and it's huge. A bit rocky, but it's brilliant. So on this second beach, there's quite a bit more sea glass, greens, blues, transparent. Look at it all glinting in the sun. Wow, that's exciting. So we have one or two photos of Marazion and St Michael's Mount. However, this is my favourite. I love this photo because you've got the crispness of the causeway, which I want to add little bits of sea glass to represent those cobbles. You've got the outline of the mount, the sun is in a direction that's actually lighting up the harbour, so it gives us some definition on the mount. And you've got the rocks and the seaweed, which is going to be really exciting. I'm really excited to put the textile work, apply some embroidery threads, and oh, I can't wait, it's going to look really good. So I love the blue of the sky as well, that kind of transition from pale to dark. I think that's a really lovely strong colour, so I want to get that into the work as well. My piece of Bondaweb, I've cut it to size. Now I've got an arrow here and I've got an arrow here. Bondaweb is funny stuff. It's kind of unpredictable where it will crinkle, and I can never remember if it should go with the roll or against the roll. So I've got two here, so I'm going to paint two images of the same photograph, and then we'll see which way it crinkles. I do want the crinkles to be horizontal. I'm quite fussy about that. So now for the really challenging bit. You actually have to paint on the reverse side, so flip the image mirror-wise. Does that make sense? So to help cope with the curliness of the Bondaweb, I've just used some masking tape to stick it down. Also, because it's against a white background, the image then shows through to allow me to paint it. The silent mewing cat. I'd better let him in then. The secret with this Bondaweb is not to get too much paint on it, but you need some colour. Now all I need to do is wait for it to dry. So here are the two images. Top one's nearly dry and the bottom one is dry. I think I already know which one I prefer, and it's this one. And it is because we've got the horizontal crinkling, and that was what I was fussy about. I think I also prefer the colours I chose when I painted it, so it looks a lot fresher and crisper, especially the causeway. I like that bit. The image is now dry. Hooray! So we now need to peel off the masking tape very gently because it's quite delicate underneath that. The Bondaweb could stick to it. This is a piece of cotton lining material, just like £2.99 a yard from Trago, and I've just ironed it. So I've laid this face down so the painted side is against the fabric, and this is the greaseproof. So let's iron it now. Peel back the greaseproof, leaving the image on the fabric. So yesterday evening I put that finished canvas onto an embroidery frame so that I can work it without the cloth distorting. Now the fun bit, we're going to add some sea glass to it. Ideally I'd like to use the stuff from Marazion. So they think that a piece of this amount of rounding and frosting might have been in the sea up to 40 years, whereas something like this that still has a little bit of luster from the original polish, maybe not so long. So I've laid up some of the sea glass, and I want to highlight the causeway, but I also really like the reflective quality of the water left behind after the sea's gone out in this little rock pool here. So at the moment I can't decide whether to just stay with the brown sea glass or to highlight the water. And I can't put too much on because if I do, the weight of the sea glass might distort the fabric when it's in the frame, and that's a hungry cat. I think that's what I'm going to go with. So I've got some along the causeway. I love this green bit. I know it's not weathered down quite as much as the other ones, but you do want it to look like a piece of cobble. And that is one that I actually collected at Marazion, so that's just got to be part of the water. So my plan, now that the sea glass is stuck down, I'm going to add some embroidery threads to just pick out some of the details that I really like. I like the rock pool and I like the causeway, and I do want to feature the mount. That's most important. So I'll give you an update every few days. So a quick look at my progress so far. I've obviously got some work around these little bits of sea glass now, and this is kind of working its way up the causeway. I do like these little seed stitches, they've gone in really nicely, and the little like horizontal lines on the water. I still need to do some work around here with the water, and I've started to put some seaweed in here, all wriggly in different colours, heather colours. I'm really liking this. This is coming on nicely. This is the flat shiny elements of rock that are around just before you hit the sand as you come off the causeway, and I do intend to put some more seaweed at their feet. And in the seaweed I'm going to add little beads, you know, like the little bladders that you get on seaweed, so they will kind of scatter through the seaweed, and I'm going to put some of it up here as well. And on the mount itself I've started just to indicate some trees, give it some texture, lots and lots of French knots. I'm going to use 3 or 4 different colour greens, depends how many I've got in the right type of tone, and I'll do some shading on the mount. And there are buildings on the mount itself. This is the lovely harbour that kind of hugs the little boats that sail across, so we will pick out some of the detail in and around the harbour too. So I need to crack on really, don't I? Still lots to do. Finished my art project. I must just show you this. Look at it. Here he is. He's in the cat conservatory. I think they use it more than we do. Anyway, back to my St Michael's mount. I'm finished, I'm done. Let me show you what the finished result looks like. So here it is. Here's my finished project. I've got some seaweed down in the right hand corner down here. The causeway is picked out. Got some sea glass leading the eye up to the harbour that hugs the little yachts as they come across from Marazion. And then the tree foliage takes you right up to the mount. Even got a flag on my flagpole. I think this is my favourite part of the piece. I'm really loving the colours that I happened to choose by accident. They look quite tweedy and heathery, and then we've got the little beads scattered through the seaweed. It's to represent those bladders that you get on seaweed, and I am adoring these 2 bits of sea glass. They just look so right there. They actually came from Marazion, which is a bonus. Loving this little cluster of weed, and it kind of goes all the way up the causeway. So the way I've tried to deal with the causeway is to have it quite detailed here with lots of little satin stitches, clusters of satin stitch, and as we go further up we then go to tinier single thread seed stitches. And again on the mount I've tried not to put too much detail just to give a sense of regression into the painting. So we've got some indication that there's a bit of rock here and a house maybe with some windows and chimneys. I've also used the negative space behind the houses so that you've got that roof bringing forward. The little French knots, look at them all, look at all those little French knots on the mount itself. And again I've just indicated some of the actual outline of the mansion on top of the rock, and I've even given it a flag on the flagpole. I've left the harbour empty. I did debate about putting some little yachts in there, but I think we'll leave that to the imagination. They're tucked in behind the harbour wall. So there you go, my interpretation of St Michael's Mount using sea glass. So I'm quite pleased with how that has turned out, and I've got some ideas for other projects. I think I could do Patrice with the breaking waves in hundreds of little French knots. I love doing French knots. Bit weird, I know, but I find it quite therapeutic. Anyway, until next time, thanks for watching.